We'll do a tap or two on the concept of economic rent, but I wanted to just explain briefly to you the concept. We've seen in our study of perfectly competitive firms' reactions to profit opportunities, we've seen that the competitive process among competitive firms drives profits, economic profits, to zero in the long run. But we look around the economy and we can see that there are economic agents that earn way more than the minimum necessary to get them to do what they're doing. And there doesn't seem to be any competitive process dissipating their earnings. And quite the opposite, the competitive process seems to boost their earnings. So what's going on there? The text has a problem, and we may do it in class. Certainly you'll do it as homework, where we think of a situation where there's 200 restaurants, each employing a chef of equal ability. Let's suppose there's this one chef that's got just great ability, and whichever restaurant hires him makes $100,000 more than the other restaurants. And so let's think early in this person's career, they're just one of 200 chefs out there. Their restaurant is employing them, and at the very beginning of this process, they're making $100,000 a year, just like every other chef. Well, this restaurant is making $100,000 more than any other restaurant. Well, the other restaurants are going to say, "Hey, geez, we want to make more. That restaurant is doing $100,000 better than we are, and they've got everything else the same." It's all because of that great chef. This guy's name is Steve Corey, and he's at 555, wherever that is. I don't get out much. Anyway, the other restaurants are going to say, "Wow, this guy's great. I want him. He's at $100,000. What a bargain. I can hire him and make $100,000 more for my restaurant." Well, they're going to go to Steve and say, "Hey, we'll hire you and we'll pay you $20,000 more than you're making now, and come over to ours." Well, great. So that restaurant that hires him away is now making $80,000 more, and the other restaurant has to hire a chef of normal ability, and they're back to just making a normal rate of return. Well, other firms see that, other restaurants see that. They say, "Oh, whoa, they're making $80,000 more than we are. Hey, let's us get Steve over to our restaurant." And so they'll call him up and say, "Hey, we'll pay you $150,000 a year to come to our restaurant." And he'll say, "Okay, well, that's better than what I'm making now." He'll go over there. That restaurant will be making $50,000 more. Remember, they're paying him $50,000 in salary more than other chefs, so that they're splitting the gravy that's associated with his skills, no pun intended on the gravy remark. Anyway, so this process continues. Somebody else says, "Hey, that restaurant that's got him now is making $50,000 more than we are. Let's lure him over here." Well, now Steve's understanding the game. He's going to say, "I'll go over there, but you have to pay me $199,000. Okay, well, that restaurant would be $1,000 better off than they are now, right? They're making $100,000 extra. $199,000 is the $100,000 that a normal chef makes, plus $99,000 because he's real special, and they're still $1,000 ahead of every other restaurant. So, but every other restaurant, some other restaurant's going to say, "Hey, that restaurant's $1,000 ahead. Come over to my place. I'll pay you $199,500, and so on." And at the end of this process, Steve Corey is making the $200,000, and every restaurant is returned to just making a normal rate of return, paying their chefs $100,000 if they're normal, $200,000 if they're Steve Corey. And we see this over and over. It's why Clint Eastwood can get, whatever he gets, $10 million a movie, even though he's 85 or something. Bruce Willis, whose next best opportunity would probably be washing cars somewhere. He makes $15 million a movie, whatever, something crazy. And it's because of this process that drives up the returns to the owner of the fixed factor. So for Steve Curry, it's this ability to make a special meal. Clint Eastwood's got that special je ne sais quoi of a great persona. I actually like Clint Eastwood, and I enjoy what he brings to a movie. Bruce Willis, there's just these stories in the economy of people with very little talent that happen to just catch people's fancy, and the fact that he's in a movie it'll make, $15 extra million. Well, guess what? That turns out to be his salary. So here, and when it's economic rent, the owner of whatever the fixed factor that's associated, that's earning the rent, the extra returns, whoever owns that is going to earn the extra returns. And the competitive process doesn't dissipate that away the way it does profit. So it's a bit of a subtle concept. It's really important to explain what we see in the economy in particular as it relates to differential earnings. Here, this guy's name is Steve Curry. Think about Steph Curry, the great point guard at Golden State. He's just got this ability to make these shots even when somebody's in his face. He makes $20 million a year, something like that, and it's because nobody else can do that. And his special skills earn him that economic rent. And anyway, this understanding of how economic rent influences earnings is real important to see and understand the economic outcomes around us.
Made with Doodlecast Pro.